A customer just dropped off this Shun knife with a broken tip, and she thought that this knife is completely ruined and it's unfixable. And I told her, good news, I can repair it. And I'll show you my process for making this dull tip into a razor sharp blade. There are two ways that people fix broken tips. They can either sharpen it from the edge side and bring this all up here. So it would make it more of like an elf shoe, and you're removing all of this actual cutting surface edge. Also, another problem from going from the edge to the spine is that the knife gets thicker, and even though I can make it sharp, your cutting performance won't be as good because the wedge is going to be so much wider. But what I like to do is come from the spine and work my way down to the edge, so I'm still keeping all the cutting surface available to the customer. So what I'm going to do is still just make this tip extremely sharp, but going to grind down more in a straighter line than this right here. So we're still keeping all the cutting edge and not going into the thicker part of the knife, but just grinding down all this metal over here to reshape the point. Since we're going to be grinding off a lot of metal, I'm going to cool the knife down with some ice water so I don't ruin the temper of the knife. I'm using a 120 grit belt to reprofile to put the tip back on the knife and remove all that damage. I can feel the knife is heating up, so back into the cold plunge we go. Joe Rogan would be very happy with me. Just a couple more passes rounding out the spine of the knife, making it smooth, and then making the perfect tip. We're all done reshaping the tip of the knife, and this came out really good. Now it's time to put a fresh edge on this knife. I'm sharpening this at 15 degrees, using a 120 grit belt to remove all the damage and apex this knife. The next step is refining the edge, so we're using a 600 grit belt to accomplish that. The final sharpening will be on a 1200 grit belt. This is going to make it mirror polish and a very sharp knife. The final step is to remove the burr, so I'm using my leather wheel with a diamond emulsion, and this is going to make the edge extremely polished and smooth to cut through anything. So you can see that we reprofiled like the tip up here, so we saved as much of the cutting surface as possible for the customer to use on the cutting board, and we made this knife extremely sharp. Thank you so much for watching of how I reshaped the tip to save this knife again and made it extremely sharp for the customer to use.